is Friday, so it is time for Brunch with Bernie, our Brunch with Bernie Hour, a national town hall meeting with the guy I think of as America's senator, although Vermonters know that he is theirs, Senator Bernie Sanders. Bernie, welcome.
Great to be with you, Tom.
Great to have you. So, it seems like, it's summer. It should be nothing going on, but the post office in the news, the Fed, the NSA, the economy.
There's always something going on. When you sit in a senator's office, my God, it never ends. It's one thing or the other.
Yeah.
Let's review a little of what's going on. The Congress is now on break, won't get back to Washington until right after Labor Day. But here are some of the thoughts, Tom, that are on my mind, that no matter what is happening in the world or in this country, we can't lose focus on the economy, because it is the economy that impacts the lives of virtually everybody in this country. And we can't forget that unemployment today remains much, much too high. There has been certainly some recovery since the great Wall Street crash, but real unemployment today is about 14%. And what worries me very, very much is that unemployment for young people is much higher than that. And that includes if those people who have given up looking for work and those people who are working part-time when they want to work full-time. There was also an alarming report that came out a couple of weeks ago which pointed out that almost all of the new jobs being created are part-time work. 97% of the new job creation over the last 6 months was part-time work.
Wow.
So when you look at why people are so frustrated and they're angry and they're not making ends meet, it's that unemployment is high. Many of the new jobs that are being created are part-time. Many of these jobs do not provide decent health care or other benefits. And that's the economic reality that we are facing. And the other point, of course, to be made when we talk about the economy, and we can never forget this, and we have to talk about it because the corporate media does not talk about it terribly often, is that we're looking at just an extraordinary degree of inequality in this country in terms of wealth and income. Top 1% owning about 38% of the financial wealth of America, the bottom 60% owning 2.3% of that wealth, and that gap between the very, very wealthy and everybody else is getting wider while the middle class disappears. And the great fear, and I think we just got to focus on this and focus on this and focus on this, is we have got to do everything that we can to prevent the United States from becoming an oligarchic form of society, where a handful of families control the political and economic life of this nation. And I think that's already going on to a significant degree with the economy. But in terms of politics, as a result of Citizens United, through which corporations and wealthy individuals can contribute as much as they want into the political process, you're seeing these very same wealthy individuals now moving forward aggressively in terms of the political process. So that raises, all of those issues raise just a number of thoughts as to how we proceed, public funding of elections, a fair tax system, et cetera, et cetera. One of the areas that I'll be working very hard on is the need to raise the minimum wage. As I think you have indicated many times on the show, the purchasing power of the minimum wage today much, much lower than it was back in 1968. We have millions and millions of people, and they're not kids. I know the right wing talks about the world being, young kids working in the summertime. That's not the case. Most of them are adults, and it's not just the need to go beyond $7.25. If you can raise the minimum wage, say, to over $10 an hour, people who are making $8 an hour will get a raise. People who are making $9 an hour will get a raise. People making $10 an hour will get a raise. And we've got to do that. We have today one of the highest rates of poverty that this country has had in the last 60 years. And one of the reasons for that is just tens of millions of Americans are working at totally inadequate wages. So raising the minimum wage, creating the millions of jobs we need, I think doing that by rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure, transforming our energy system into energy efficiency and sustainable energy, all of that and much more can create a whole lot of jobs that we desperately need. Another issue out there that you'll be hearing a lot about when Congress convenes after Labor Day is the Postal Service. The good news is, and it's important that people understand this, is that if you exclude the very onerous burden uniquely placed on the Postal Service, in the sense that in 2006, Congress, under the Bush administration, mandated that the Postal Service pay 75 years of future health benefits in a 10-year period, which amounts to about $5.5 billion a year. No other entity in the United States, not in the private sector, not in local, state, federal government, has been forced to do that. So that's about $5.5 billion every single year that they have to come up with. If you exclude that, and you understand that they already have many, many billions of dollars in that fund, the Postal Service actually right now is making money. In the last quarter, they made almost $700 million in profit. Year to date, they're up about $300 million. So I've got legislation in which has 29 co-sponsors, which would end that onerous burden, unfair burden on the Postal Service. Pete DeFazio of Oregon has similar legislation in the House. I think he has about 165 co-sponsors. So we're going to fight very hard to maintain strong, timely mail delivery service in America, maintain the jobs that entails, prevent closing of rural post offices and mail delivery centers, and do everything that we can to protect the jobs and the strength that is in the Postal Service right now. So you're going to hear a lot about that issue. You are going to be also, I think, hearing in the not-too-distant future increased discussion about the Fed. Ben Bernanke is retiring, and the president is now looking at some possible nominees to take his place. That is a position of enormous power. Some would argue it's in some ways even more powerful than the President of the United States. Elizabeth Warren and I penned an op-ed that went out over the progressive media, and we asked some questions. And let me briefly raise some of the issues that we wrote about. And that is the need for the Fed to focus on full employment. We have got to create millions of jobs in this country. We have made good progress in the last several years in substantially reducing the deficit. We've cut the deficit in about half. I think we should go further, but we've made progress on that. Now is the time to focus on the economy and the need to create millions of jobs, and we want the next Fed chairperson to do that. We want the next Fed chairperson to take a hard look at the need to break up many of these huge financial institutions, which are certainly today much too big to fail. They are larger today than they were before the bailout. And we want to get an opinion on some of these folks who are being thought of as the next Fed chairperson as to what he or she may think about the need to break up these large financial institutions. And we also want to get an understanding of the new nominee about their views on Glass-Steagall and on the impact that the deregulation of Wall Street has had on the economy. It is my view, and I think the view of most economists, that doing away with Glass-Steagall, deregulating Wall Street, something pushed, I should tell you, by both Republicans and Democrats during the 80s and 90s, was a disaster for this country. And we want to know how the next Fed chairman feels about that as well.
Excellent stuff. Senator Bernie Sanders with us. He is taking your calls right after the break in our national town hall meeting, Brunch with Bernie, right here on the Thom Hartmann Program. You can check out Bernie's website, sanders.senate.gov, for just extraordinary collection of great news information.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And ways you can communicate back with Bernie and get his newsletter, The Bernie Buzz, over at sanders.senate.gov. Welcome back, and ready for some calls here, Bernie?
Let's do it.
Okay, or Senator, Paul in South Lyon, Michigan. You're on the air with Senator Sanders. Thanks for watching Free Speech TV.
Yeah, how you doing, Tom?
Good.
I'm a great admirer of yours, Senator. First, I want to thank President Obama for ending the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and doing everything in his power, including the NSA program, to keep us safe. And I know a lot of the same people who are criticizing him now over the NSA program would be the first to criticize him if there was a successful terrorist attack, most of them Republicans, of course. I know Tom lives in a houseboat, and I don't think there's ever been a terrorist attack on a houseboat. And you have excellent security in the Senate. But the rest of us live in cities and apartment buildings, and we work at places that could be attacked. And I would rather have the NSA hold on to my phone records like AT&T and Verizon does right now with no oversight than be blown up in a terrorist attack. And I did some research, and isn't it true that when Bush started the NSA program, there was zero oversight? They could listen to any phone call they wanted to and read any email without getting permission from anybody. And this
well, I don't have that information in front of me. I think that's probably not accurate. But let me just...
Well, the FISA court goes back to the 90s.
I appreciate where Paul is coming from. Look, here is the issue, and I think the President understands what the issue is. And that is, number one, we have got to do everything that we can to combat terrorism and protect the American people. And that's what Paul was talking about. I think everybody agrees with that. On the other hand, what we also have to understand is that this country has a constitution. We believe in freedom, and we believe in the rights of people to live their lives without the United States government knowing, or private corporations for that matter, knowing everything that they do. The challenge that you face is what is the appropriate balance. The President talks about that. I don't agree with how the President has come down in terms of what the balance should be. I do not believe that it is necessary for the NSA to file every single telephone call made in the United States. There's a piece in the Washington Post today suggesting they're doing a lot more than we had previously thought about getting information about individual Americans. So I would say to you, and I should tell you also, Paul, we have legislation that's in. I think you're going to see a lot of discussion coming up within the next few months, probably within the Defense Department reauthorization bill, about how we, in fact, address that issue, being aggressive in protecting the American people against terrorism, but doing it in a way that allows the American people to enjoy their constitutional rights and believe that they are living their lives without the government knowing what they're doing.
Senator, this is an issue, we have about a minute before the break. This is an issue that it seems Congress really wasn't paying much attention to until the leaks. And now the Washington Post, people are actually doing, filing FOIA requests and things as more and more is coming out. How's the sentiment shifting in Congress?
I think it is shifting in the direction that I suggested, and this is one of those rare issues that you probably have some right-wing libertarian types working with progressives. I think the feeling is, Paul made the point. Obviously, we went through 9/11. We understand that there are threats against this country, that there are people who want to do us harm. They're out there, no question about it. And we want our intelligence agencies and law enforcement to be aggressive in going after those people. I happen to very strongly believe that you can do that without undermining our constitutional rights. And we'll get into that later. But I think the sentiment is shifting, is that we want a more balanced approach. Protect the American people, but do it by protecting.
Take you back to mainstream media, 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. Thom Hartmann here with you. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour, our national town hall meeting with Senator Bernie Sanders, taking your calls. Keith in Hawthorne, Florida. Hey, Keith, you're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Yeah, hi.
Hello?
Hi.
Hello, I'm here.
You are?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Keith, we hear you fine.
Yeah.
Hi, my phone's conking out a little bit. I'm on a home phone. Should I tell you my question, or do you already know it?
No, just go for it, Keith. You're on the air.
I'm wondering, with the radical gerrymandering that's been happening, extremely radical gerrymandering, and with all the trouble that we're having with the Tea Party, with the gerrymandering, how can we make any progress with the House of Representatives? I don't know how we can ever get them out of there. I mean, they're eliminating, if you don't walk with their talk their talk, they're eliminating people just by gerrymandering out of their own districts. So
Well, Keith raises a very important issue, and it ties into an even broader issue. Keith is right in saying that Republicans who control state legislatures have been very effective in gerrymandering districts, making sure that there will be Republican representatives to the United States Congress. He didn't mention, but what's also of enormous concern is that many of these very same legislatures and governors are working very hard at voter suppression in an unprecedented way, I think, certainly since the 1960s and the establishment of the Voting Rights Act. We're seeing state governments very blatantly, I don't think there's much debate about it, doing everything they can to make it harder for their political opponents to participate in elections, be they people of color, college students, lower-income people who will not vote Republican, or will mostly not vote Republican. They're just simply making it harder for those people to participate, and that is just an absolute outrage, and it's something I would hope the Attorney General's office in the United States takes a hard look at. But Keith raises the issue, what do we do? How do you win back the House of Representatives? And I would say, Keith, that while gerrymandering is certainly a very serious problem, I think you win back the House of Representatives by focusing on the issues that the American people support, by having a progressive agenda which talks about the economic rights of all Americans. I think it is my view, and I feel strongly about this, that I'm not really into this red state, blue state business. I know there are states obviously more conservative than other states, but at the end of the day, if you go to people and you say, do you want the federal government to be active in creating millions of jobs so that your kid will not have a lower standard of living than you do, people will say yes. And if you ask people, do you think the right-wing Republicans are right by wanting to privatize Social Security or cut back on Social Security or cut back on Medicare or Medicaid or education? You know what most people will say? They'll say, no, that's not right. So I think that where the Democrats have not done a good job is simply bring forth a progressive agenda which speaks to the needs of ordinary Americans, health care for all, making college affordable for all, rebuilding our infrastructure, protecting Social Security and Medicare, protecting the environment. I think those are issues that resonate in every district in this country. And if the Democrats are strong and are prepared to take on big money and make it clear which side they are on, i.e. defending the needs of working families, I think they will do quite well in congressional elections.
Wesley in Seattle, Washington. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Senator, all of the things that you talked about in your opening statement are wonderful. None of them are going to happen as long as we have these group of racist tea-brainers in the House. I think the best way maybe to get the House to pay attention to what the American people want would be a national strike on May 1st, where every union member in the country descends on Washington. We strike for national health. We strike for rights to organize, and we strike for voter rights. I think that's a good idea. What do you guys think?
Well, what I think, Wensley, is the goal is twofold. We've got to educate, we have to organize. And if it means getting out into the streets, I think that's absolutely a great idea. I think we should be out on the streets at state capitals and in Washington as well, fighting for a progressive agenda. And what does that progressive agenda entail? It means, among other things, that the United States has got to join every other major country on earth with a national health care program guaranteeing health care to all people. It means we create, as I mentioned a moment ago, the millions of jobs we desperately need. Now, one of the interesting things, Wensley, that is occurring right now, as I'm sure you're aware of, is we're seeing a lot of younger people, often people of color, who are working at fast food restaurants, McDonald's, Burger King, etc., all over the country. They are going out on strike. They're taking a day off at great risk to themselves. And they're highlighting a point that needs to be made over and over and over again, is that people cannot live on $7.25 an hour or $8 an hour, that we need decent wages in this country, that among other things we need to raise the minimum wage. So you're beginning to see some of that economic activity out there, and I think we need to see more of it.
Okay. Just 1 minute to the break, Bernie. Not quite enough for a call. Did you want to?
Well, let me mention just on a totally different issue.
Sure.
We had a wonderful event yesterday in Montpelier, Vermont, we had an organization called the Vermont Public Interest Research Group, VPIRG, and they do a great job. And the focus was on labeling for a food that contains genetically modified organisms, GMOs. And they have knocked on tens of thousands of doors in Vermont. They're submitting 30,000 postcards to the Vermont State Senate. The House has already passed labeling legislation, and that's another issue out there that is of keen importance to a whole lot of people all over this country. They want to know about the quality of the food that they're eating, and many people would like to see labeling of GMOs. So that's just another important issue that is out there.
Do you see a sentiment for that in Congress?
Absolutely. Well, I think a growing sentiment. The American people clearly want that. I have a bill out there. We only got 27 votes when I got it to the floor of the Senate, but I think we'll do better in the future.
Great. Senator Bernie Sanders with us. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour. Senator Sanders taking your calls on whatever's on your mind, the topics of the day. We'll be back with more of your calls for Senator Sanders right after this.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 866-987-THOM.
And check out Bernie's website at sanders.senate.gov, G-O-V. Talk media for the sane among us. Welcome back to the Thom Hartmann Program. 28 minutes past the hour. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour. Senator Bernie Sanders on the line taking your calls today. And Bernie, you're still with us?
I'm right here.
Okay. Merlene in Morriston, Florida. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Thank you, Tom. Senator Sanders, what is the status, and are we doing anything about all that radioactivity that's been pouring into the ocean for 2.5 years from the Japan catastrophe?
What I can tell you is that the Nuclear Regulatory Commission here in the United States is working with the nuclear people in Japan to do what they can in advising them. But you got a real disaster there. And the disaster is that you had a failed nuclear power plant, and as you indicated, a huge amount of radioactive material is going into the ocean. So I'm not sure what can be done, but I do know that our government is working with the Japanese.
Okay. Harvey in Berkeley, California. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hi, Tom, and hello, Senator Sanders. I really want to thank President Obama for putting solar panels on the roof of the White House. So he'll save the American public a lot of money over the 20 to 40-year lifetime of the solar panels. But the question is that the federal government also owns approximately 900,000 buildings, including warehouses and office buildings. And the federal government also runs a fleet of about 450,000 vehicles. And I'd like to see that continue on from the White House onto the rooftops of all the appropriate federal buildings with solar photovoltaic installations. And then the government, people who work for the government can plug their electric vehicles into the federal solar electric infrastructure. But at the same time, this would create a lot of jobs and would really help to reduce our CO2. And solar panels use no water. It turns out that the four horsemen of the apocalypse, nuclear, coal, natural gas, and oil, are second only to agriculture in their use of water. So I was just wondering about what your feelings on covering...
Well, Harvey, I agree with you. We are making some progress in making sure that federal buildings and federal lands are used more appropriately for sustainable energy. I am chairman of the Veterans Committee, and that's an area that I want to see some progress made in terms of a lot of the VA hospitals and the primary health care clinics that we have. I'd like to see more sustainable energy and certainly more energy efficiency there as well. So the answer is we are making some progress, but in terms of our buildings and utilization of solar, in terms of making sure that the vehicles that we have and that are owned by the federal government or the post office are more energy efficient, I still think we have a long way to go. Some progress, but much more needs to be done.
Rick in Geneva, Florida. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Senator Sanders, in your opening, you spoke about Ben Bernanke leaving the Federal Reserve, but you didn't mention, or you said that that's a very, very powerful position, but you didn't mention that President Obama is considering Larry Summers to take the job. And Larry Summers was instrumental in deregulating the market and in backing, repealing Glass-Steagall. I mean, Larry Summers is public enemy number one. Where do you stand on Larry Summers?
Well, I agree with what you said, Rick. Larry Summers was one of the leaders, along with Alan Greenspan and Robert Rubin. A good bipartisan effort, if you like, to deregulate Wall Street with all of the disastrous consequences that we have seen. So I would say if your point is that Larry Summers has been part of the problem, a key part of the problem, I think you're right. I think we need a chairperson of the Fed who is outside of the Wall Street milieu, who is going to take a fresh look at what the Fed should be doing in terms of the needs of working people. Who will understand that Wall Street is now far, far, far too powerful, that they own just a huge percentage of our economy, and their political power is growing as well. So I certainly agree with you that Larry Summers should not be the next chair of the Fed, and I hope the president goes far beyond Wall Street or Wall Street influence to come up with a new leader there.
Pearl in Topsham, Vermont. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Oh, good afternoon, and thank you for taking my call. I know Tom likes to say that Bernie is America's senator, but I'm proud to call him my own. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to share, and bear with me for a moment. I have never called into a show before, but I'd like to share with you an idea I have, and it's concerning voter ID, and because we're all very concerned about the suppression that's going on. And we have thousands of young people that are searching for work, and they have fabulous computer skills. And I'm wondering if it wouldn't be possible to combine these people with their skills, put them to work using equipment that's readily available, iPhones, printers and laminators, and create a nationwide network of voter ID cards similar to our driver's license. You'd have to form a bipartisan team going state to state, town to town, sort of like a census taking, and create these cards for people that are eligible voters. And so I see it as putting people to work, even possibly create a public service organization whereby these same students could get credit toward student loans, and et cetera.
Okay.
So I know it's huge and maybe it's crazy, but...
No, it's not. Well, it's not crazy. It's a response to some very ugly things that are happening right now. I think what Pearl is essentially saying, that in these states that are demanding photo IDs from people who don't drive cars and may not have it, or charging them money to get the IDs, or forcing them to get to another part of the town to go through the whole process of getting the ID, understanding that will result in a lower voter turnout. What Pearl is, I think, saying is, okay, if they want a voter ID, make sure that everybody in America has it, give it to them free, and that will go a long way to mitigate what some of these right-wing legislatures and governors are doing. And that's a decent idea. My own thought is, though, that I think that if you look at the facts, voter fraud, what many of these state governments are trying to do is address a problem that really does not, in a significant way, exist. Voter fraud is a very, very serious crime, and if someone commits that crime, they should be punished severely. But the truth of the matter is that it is not a major problem that I am aware of. So I think it's a problem that many of these legislatures are responding to that does not exist. So I would repeal, my preference would be to repeal these laws. But what Pearl is saying is if you're going to have it, give free photo IDs to people to make sure that they can still vote.
Liz in Hummerock, Massachusetts. Is that how you say it, Liz?
That's right. Hi.
You're on the air.
I feel absolutely honored to speak with Senator Sanders. I've followed you for years, and I would like to know if there are any progressive parties down here. I go to UMass Boston. I'm an old lady, but I keep my brain sharp by going to school. Anyway, I would like to see a progressive party down here that's not communist or whatever they think they are. That's usually what they're pushing is the Marxist policy. In any case, is there a group of like-minded people
To be honest
down
with you,
here.
I am not sure.
I go to UMass Boston, so.
All right, I am not sure what's going on politically in terms of third-party activity in Massachusetts. What I can tell you, when I was mayor of the city of Burlington back in the 1980s, we started in our city, which is the largest city in the state, a third-party, non-party. It wasn't a formal party, but it really was, for all intents and purposes, a party, which did pretty well. We had, obviously, the mayor's chair, and we had a significant number of people in the city council. Right now in the state of Vermont, there is a third party called the Progressive Party, which is probably doing better than any other third party around the country, certainly Progressive Party. They have a number of people in the House and at least 3 members out of 30 in the Vermont State Senate. So they're carrying their weight, and they often become very pivotal on key issues where the Democrats have to go to them for support. So they are probably carrying more weight than their numbers would indicate. So in Vermont, we have done pretty well with third-party politics, but I can't give you an appraisal about what's going on in Massachusetts. I just don't know.
Steve in Waukesha, Wisconsin. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Yes, thank you. It's Waukesha.
Waukesha. Oh, that's right.
I just returned from the Democracy Convention in Madison, Wisconsin, and we had 2 sessions on the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which sounds like a very bad thing. It would allow corporations to undermine food safety and environmental regulations, and it would allow them to raise prices for prescription drugs and lengthen the term of their patents. And my question is, with the timeline coming up in October of this year and the move toward fast-tracking this thing, how do we stop it?
Well, first of all, Steve, thanks very much for the question. I'm going to be out in Wisconsin myself, in Madison, I believe on September 6th. You guys have a Fighting Bob Festival. I think, Tom, you were out there last year, weren't you?
I've spoken there 3 times. And Bernie, we're going to hit a break in just a second here. So can we pick up the...
Sure.
I thought we would have by now. There it is. Can we pick up the answer to that question in 4 minutes when our commercial radio listeners rejoin us? Okay, great. Senator Sanders is with us. We will be back talking about the Trans-Pacific Partnership and more of your calls for Bernie right after this. It's 15 minutes before the hour. 4 o'clock here on the East Coast, wherever you may be. Be sure to check out Bernie's website, sanders.senate.gov. We'll be right back with more Senator Sanders.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
And you can sign up for the Bernie Buzz over at sanders.senate.gov. And welcome back. Bernie, my apologies for missing that time cue. Our commercial radio listeners will not be with us for the next 4 minutes, just our Pacifica listeners and our Free Speech TV viewers. So can we pick up that answer in 4 minutes after the next break?
On something that Steve reminded me of, talking about Wisconsin. We've gotten a couple of calls this afternoon, Tom, about people who are saying, well, how do we take back the House? How do you effectively combat right-wing extremism? And one way you do it is the way the folks in Wisconsin have done, through, among many other things, this Fighting Bob festival, which honors the memory of Senator Bob La Follette, one of the great progressive heroes of this country. And I think if we see more events like that around the country, what they're doing in Wisconsin, old friends of mine, Ed and Betty Garvey, have helped organize this for years, is you just bring a whole lot of people together. You have workshops, you bring national speakers in there, you educate, you organize, you bring, and I think when you do that, you kind of get people animated and feeling positive, and they meet people of like-mindedness. So I would hope that we would see events like that throughout the country. But that is one way that we can go forward in bringing progressives together.
Yep, absolutely. Joan in Owasso, Michigan, watching us on Dish Network on Free Speech TV. Joan, you're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Thank you for taking my call, Tom. And I've wanted to talk to Bernie for a long time, one-on-one, about my 50 years of agriculture memoirs. With all these floods in the southeast and the fires in the west and the drought in the south. I don't understand with all the expenses that the farmer has to pay for equipment and land and fertilizer and everything, how the price of corn could be $4 a bushel. I just do not understand, because they only got 20% of the farm bill, and that upset me too. I realize other people have to eat too, but so does the farmer. They should be getting 106% parity like Truman gave them back in the 48, 52 years.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Joan,
thank you, Joan. Bernie, is that because of subsidies?
I think what Joan was referring to, what's obviously true, is that when farmers sell their products, they do not get a whole lot of what the product. If you buy a box of cereal, for example, and the wheat that is in it that comes from the farmers get a very small percentage of what that product is sold for, and I think that's the point that Joan is making. The broader issue, Joan, is how we protect family farmers throughout this country. In Vermont, we are struggling to maintain dairy farming. Farmers are not getting a fair price for their milk, no ifs, buts, and maybes about it. Unfortunately, our Republican friends are making a bad situation worse, trying to make it harder for family farmers to get the kinds of support that they need. But as a nation, I think we should understand that it's absolutely imperative that our people and our kids get good quality, fresh food. And one way you do that is to protect family-based agriculture.
We'll be right back with more of Senator Bernie Sanders right after this. It's 10 minutes before the hour. Ten minutes before the hour on the Thom Hartmann Program, Brunch with Bernie. Senator Bernie Sanders with us. And Bernie, just before we hit the last break, a caller asked your thoughts on the Trans-Pacific Partnership and what can be done about it.
Right. That was Steve from Wisconsin. His concerns are absolutely legitimate. And you and I have talked about this issue many, many times. And that is this TPP, Trans-Pacific Partnership, is a continuation, in my view, of a failed trade policy, including permanent normal trade relations with China, NAFTA, CAFTA, and other trade agreements. These agreements, by and large, are written by large multinational corporations, and the workers of this country end up suffering the results of that, as well as consumers in other parts of the world. He is right to be concerned about prescription drugs. There are countries around the world that are, in one way or another, trying to make sure that their people can get affordable prescription drugs through generics or in other ways. And agreements like the TPP will mandate that they have to buy prescription drugs at a much higher price than, in many cases, they are currently paying. And it also, in some cases, will override environmental laws in the United States because we'll be dealing with global law. And if a corporation feels aggrieved, they can go to some international body and say, look, this is, we're paying more than we should, or our expenses are greater than they should be, override the environmental law or other laws passed by a sovereign nation. So it is, I agree with Steve, it is a serious issue. It is going to come before the Senate and before the Congress. I will do my best to defeat it and certainly oppose any fast-track approach to get it passed.
Ken in Lafayette, Colorado, listening on AM 760. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Oh, wow. Thanks for taking my call, Tom. Well, Mr. Sanders, my question is about the president's health care reform and how it's patterned after, I think more appropriately called Romney Care in Massachusetts. And my question is, from what I understand, please correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I understand, Romney Care in Massachusetts is actually working. people are covered, the state's not broke, et cetera, et cetera. So with that said, why aren't we hearing more of the success of Romneycare in Massachusetts in defense of implementing the president's health care reform, for the rest of the country?
Good question, Ken. My understanding is that by and large, first of all, you're right. Obamacare is Romneycare made national. Second of all, I would say that in certain respects, it is working in Massachusetts. Almost everybody in Massachusetts now has some health insurance, and that is clearly a good thing. Has Romneycare in Massachusetts resulted in lower cost health care? Has it made the healthcare system more efficient and lowered the increases that we're seeing nationally in healthcare? My understanding is that has not been the case. There have also been some problems about lack of access for primary health care. I think Obamacare and Romneycare in Massachusetts are modest health care reforms which will achieve the fact that more people will have health care. Certainly nationally we'll do a better job in terms of disease prevention. But at the end of the day, in my view, neither one of those approaches, not what's going on in Massachusetts or Obamacare, goes anywhere near as far as it should in getting to two basic root issues. Number one, should everybody in the country be entitled to health care as a right, which exists in almost every other major industrialized country, and Obamacare does not do that. Second of all, and equally important, it does not address the issue of why we as a nation are spending almost twice as much per capita on health care as any other nation, and why we have the most expensive prescription drugs in the entire world. So Romneycare has done, I think, some good things in Massachusetts. I think it's fairly popular. But I think we have to go further in terms of reaching the goal of providing health care to all people in a cost-effective way. Romneycare has not done that, and Obamacare will not do that, which is why I am in favor of a single-payer health care system.
Okay. Mohammed in Fremont, California, watching on sanders.senate.gov. Mohammed, you're on the air with Senator Sanders. We have 2 minutes to the end of the hour.
All right. Hello, Senator, and hello, Thomas. Nice to talk to you guys. I have a tremendous amount of respect for the both of you.
Thank you.
My question is in regards to the NSA. As more and more information is revealed about the NSA and its program, the Obama administration is forced to backtrack on almost everything it said in the past. So is it safe to say now that the administration has lost pretty much all credibility on this issue? And where do you see the debate on national security and liberty going from here?
Okay. Thank you, Mohammed. Good question. This is what I think. I think the president honestly and legitimately, as we all are worried about terrorism, and it's a real issue. His view is that with certain protections put in place, the American people should not worry about what the government does in terms of the accumulation of information. And I disagree with that. I think we should worry. And I think where the debate is going to go is that you're going to see more and more members of Congress, both some libertarian types and progressives, saying, okay, we have to defend the American people from the very real threat of terrorism, but there are ways that you do that without undermining basic privacy and constitutional rights. I have legislation, and I think a number of other members share similar, will take a similar approach, which says, in English as opposed to legalese, is that if you have evidence or reason to believe that an individual is involved in terrorist activity, we want the intelligence agencies and law enforcement to be vigorous in going after that person. But you got to make the case to the FISA court that you have some evidence, and you can't say, well, we think it's a good thing that we file every single telephone call made in the United States of America. That is not, in my view, good enough. So I think you're going to see kind of a narrowing of what the intelligence agencies can do under the USA Patriot Act.
Great. Bernie, thank you for being with us today.
My pleasure. Take care.